What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mikey Yourself, and this week's video I'm wearing blue because we're working on blue. Let's take a look at what we're gonna do. Alright guys, so I've been working a lot on the audio system for El Jefe, which is my road glide, and tons of love there, but I also want to do something for Blue, my Road King. Now Blue doesn't have a fairing, obviously, right? So how do you get your stuff set up in a Road King to get great sound and the ability to essentially control your audio without having a stereo in front of you, right? So this is going to be a multi-part series to this new addition for Blue. Let's talk about the equipment that we're going to install. So what we got here on the table is the Cerwin Vega lid kit. You know, in this lid kit that I chose, and again I purchased, is the lid kit for a 14 plus. Now if you know my bike, Blue is a 2007. However, the saddlebags I put on Blue are actually the 14 plus style of saddlebag. So I had to mix match, right, those, because I got to get the right one. Now I will tell you something to be aware of is those aftermarket saddlebags. Check your fitment. They may not be exactly to spec, so just a warning, right? If it's aftermarket, these things are modeled after the Harley lid, so if it's not exactly as the Harley lid is, you may have some tweaking that you need to do, just as a heads up. Along with this kit comes a set of 6x9 woofers. I went with the 2 ohm speakers, and the reason is less resistance. And what does that mean? Less resistance means more power. They're going to be louder. I need that because they're going to be behind me, and at highway speeds it'll be a little bit harder to hear than, say, the speakers that are in the fairing of a street glide or road glide. All right, so let's take a look at the lid kit first. We'll see what we get in it, and we'll kind of just put that template or whatever on the saddlebag so you can see that. But in this kit you get a bag full of screws. There is a bracket here. I'm not sure what this bracket is for. It might be for your because we're gonna have to drill a hole to allow for the wires to come out of the saddlebag. So there's actually 2 of them, so that's what that looks like it's for. So you just route your wires out the side, and it provides, because it's like this teardrop deal, you could probably go down with it, and that would provide you a good amount of water protection. You could do it sideways, that probably would work as well. Just a thought. You got ring adapters for your 6x9s. This kit does come with a cable or harness. Now, because it's the kit for the newer bikes, these plugs aren't necessarily applicable to my application, although I may find a way to use them and make it happen. We'll see. Then of course you get your speaker mount and your cover, right? So that's what's in your top side here. Underneath is the actual template. So let's go ahead and lay this on so you can see what it is I'm talking about and how you actually do this job. All right, so I've never done one of these before, but I've watched a ton of videos on them, and I shouldn't say installation because you're not installing this, but the process of cutting your saddlebag is pretty straightforward. So what you're going to want to do is, like I said, first things first, make sure it fits properly. So it's not like I'm not having to push it down, there's no gap in there. You want it to sit nice and flush. You will have to kind of finagle it a little bit because, you know, like my saddlebag's got wax on it, so it's just sliding a little bit. We'll use some special tools to hold that in place, but you want to just make sure you got proper fitment. If it doesn't fit correctly, double check things. Make sure, like I said, your lid is the right size. The other thing is make sure your little handle here is flipped down. Some of the guys talk about removing it, and if you do that and you wait until you install your speaker to put it back, you're not going to be able to get a screwdriver in there. So if you do take that off, make sure you put it back on before you assemble everything. So with this process, what you end up doing is once you get it mounted onto your saddlebag and get it lined up, we'll put it in place. We'll use some tape to hold it. There are 2 holes here. You're going to screw those right into your saddlebag lid. No worries. Everything within this awkward shape is going away anyways, so not a big deal. So what we're going to do is essentially drill some holes and then use a jigsaw to work our way around the entire area to cut this out. Now once you're done, you know, these tabs here that are holding this thing in place, those are going to get cut too. Now I've heard 2 different versions of how you should cut. Some guys talk about running with the outside and others are talking about going with the inside. I'm going to be an inside guy, and the reason I'm going to be the inside guy is because you can't uncut. So if I go on the inside and I need a little bit more space, I can always shave that, file it, and gain that space. But if I cut it too far, then you're done, right? So pretty straightforward. Let's talk about the first thing you need to do before you start cutting. The most important tool you're going to need during this process: painter's tape. You're going to want to cover up your saddlebag so that way you don't scratch it up or anything during this process. So we're going to take this tape. You don't have to do the entire bag on top, just kind of the area that's going to get covered. If you need to use your template to lay it down to see how far back you're going to go, you can do that. I'm just going to pick midpoint, start there, work my way forward, and then that way you're protecting the areas just in case you slip or, you know, scuff or whatever. The other thing is, some guys take the lids off, some guys take the saddlebags off, some guys leave it on. I heard, or from what I understand, is for stability, especially if you're doing it by yourself, it's easier to make these cuts while the saddlebags are on the bike. We'll find out. The other piece of advice that I picked up on was, if you're using a jigsaw like we're going to use, they said to use an aggressive wood blade instead of a metal blade. I tend to have a smoother cut with metal, but the important part of that was speed. If you run your jigsaw too quickly, it starts to melt the plastic and it refuses itself back together, so you end up having to cut twice. So slow the speed down, make your cuts, don't rush the process, and you're gonna get a great output. So let me get these things taped up and we'll start mounting that template. All right, so now I've got my saddlebag all taped up. I'm go ahead and put that on. And feels right there. It's kind of where it sits nice and flush. I'm just going to use a couple pieces to keep it in place for me right now. There, and then one at the bottom. Okay guys, so like I said, we're going to throw these 2 screws in to hold the template in place while we do our cutting. And they just go right in. This is an easy job to do. It is high stress because you're like literally you're cutting your saddlebags, right? So yeah, just understand that that's going to be something there that you're going to be like, did I do it for sure? Have confidence in yourself. They make this pretty easy. Watch videos like mine or other guys out there and you should feel a little bit more comfortable just doing this. So yeah, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to use a step drill bit to kind of throw some starter holes in here, and then we're going to finish out with some 5/16 so that way the blade of the jigsaw can get in there. So let me go ahead and get that step bit on. All right, so now that we have our holes drilled, we can get our blade in there. Before I start doing that though, I'm gonna level my bike out because I have it on the jiffy stand and it's just not as you know, I gotta lean a lot more on this side because it's leaning this way. So let me go ahead and straighten it up and we'll get to cutting. All right, so as we get to cutting, because I know I'm gonna have to cut across these tabs, I'm gonna go ahead and use a pencil and just draw a little line for myself to follow, because it just makes life easier sometimes. And like I said, I'm going with the inner side of the template, so that way if I have to do any kind of fixing, I can, versus if I cut too big, then I'm stuck with a gap for my speakers and I'm not gonna be happy about that, right? All right, so I'm gonna tell you this right now. Every video I watched after they made their cuts, it looks like crap. It's not a clean cut. It's not like perfect line, at least from all of the ones I saw. And I watched quite a few. So don't be worried about that. Just know when you put your stuff together, you're not gonna see any of that. It's so hidden. Yeah, so don't sweat it. All right, let's get to cutting. Take your time. The other thing is these corners, you're gonna have to be really slow around getting. Everybody says go from like a starting point to as far as you can go and then hit the other starting point and go up. Don't try to do the whole curve, at least with something like this, because it doesn't, I guess, work out right for you. Or at least that's what it seemed like to be for everybody else's advice. So I'm gonna take that advice and kind of take that approach to it. All right, so you can see I got my cuts done. This was a terror, man. Like, it took me a while. You know, I kind of went forward, stopped, pulled it back a little, put a little bit of pressure on it, started going forward, and just kind of kept repeating that process, almost like you're trying to make a 3-point turn, but you're not. You're making like a 90-degree turn. Anyhow, so I've got it all the way through. Like I said, I tried to stay on the inside. That little guy didn't make it. I swung wide on that one, so I'm still inside the template, so I should be safe. And yeah, so now I just got to cut across these tabs. So I don't know if you can see the pencil line there, but I got that just to use to guide my blade, and should be able to pop this out. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we can pull our template off. And then I've got to remove all this blue tape. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring you back so you can see how crappy this is gonna look, but like I said, it's cosmetic, you won't even see it. All right, so there you go. So super jagged right now. I am gonna take a file and just kind of, you know, file it a little bit down just so I don't have any really sharp edges here, but to restore your faith, so you know that this comes out okay and Mike's not gonna play any kind of tricks on you. You see the jaggedness? That's what the lid's gonna look like. Covers it all up. No gaps. So we're in the green. Like I said, at this point, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and I'm gonna file the edges down just to make them clean. And then it really is about putting some screws together. On the underside of this, you got like those brass screws there. So we got screws that will be on the other side that we're going to push through and tighten this down, and that holds this all in place. And then we add the adapter for the 6x9 and add in the 6x9 and we're done. And there you go, sitting in there all nice, no gaps or anything like that. So now all we have to do is put in our speaker. So let's take a look at the speakers. All right guys, so as I mentioned, we got the 6x9s. These are the Cerwin Vega ST692 CX2 speakers. These are IP65 rated, meaning you basically can take a bath with them, right? They're marine grade. You're gonna want that in your saddlebags because you're gonna wash your bike, you're gonna ride through the rain, whatever. You don't want your speakers getting destroyed. And these things are friggin' hefty. They come with some pretty cool grills. We're not gonna be able to use them because they're gonna be underneath, right? So we'll set that aside. Taking a look at the speaker itself, I mean, this thing is friggin' heavy, man. Look at it. Oh my god. That is a setup. So inside the box you get a spec sheet to let you know all about your speakers. They have the 4-ohm version, the 2-ohm version, so you can kind of go through. This is going to be very important once we start hooking up our music to it, so we know how to set up our DSP. So we'll cover that stuff in detail once we get to that step in the entire process in our series. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to take our adapter ring that came with our lid kit, and we're going to go ahead and put that in place and get it into the bike. All right, so let's go ahead and put our adapter on. So the adapter looks like it goes with these openings facing inward. That way you can get your screw head in there. So we'll just kind of lay that down, get ourselves started. And guys, at this point it comes down to about tightening 10 screws. That's it. All right, so now that we got that in, we can go ahead and put in our subwoofer. And that's 4 screws. Alright guys, so 4 screws holding that sucker in. Close your bag, lock it down, and that's it. So all in all, that process probably takes about an hour to knock out. So you're looking at about a 2-hour job if you're not making any connections. So take your time, you'll be able to take care of it just right. Alright guys, there you go. Both sides are in now. Looking good. Check it out. Alright guys, that's going to be a wrap for this week's video. Really, just the first part of a couple of videos here as we start building out the audio system for Blue, the Road King here. I'm super excited to see what the next steps are going to look like. We still got to do an amp, we've got to do a DSP, and also all of the wiring that goes along with that. So making sure that we get that done right. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it kind of gave you a little bit of insight on how to do these lid cut kits or whatever. It wasn't too bad. My first time, yeah, I'd say pretty easy. The videos that are out there are pretty accurate. So yeah, hopefully it helps you. Well, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up, become a subscriber. Love to get your feedback, your experience, and until my next video post, I hope to see you in the win.